Let's be real here. I couldn't make a miniseries called Requiem for a Cancelled Show and not talk about Firefly. That would constitute a Class A nerd felony. Plus, I've been begging my friend Anna to watch it for the better half of a decade, and this video should help bolster my argument. Anna, please give this show a chance. I promise you'll like it. Firefly is a cult classic TV show from 2002 about space cowboys trying to make a living in the galaxy's vast frontier. To say that the series was doomed from the start is a bit of an understatement, because 20th Century Fox essentially hated every aspect of Firefly. Network executives wanted a fun action comedy, but they greenlit an introspective character study about nobodies who regularly get squished by policy. They rejected the original pilot for being too dark and demanded the creators write a new script over the course of a weekend. Captain Malcolm Reynolds wasn't jolly enough, and they didn't like the fact that Wash and Zoe were happily married. God forbid a stable, healthy relationship be portrayed on TV.
That sounds like something out of science fiction.
You live in a spaceship, dear.
Only 11 of the 14 completed episodes aired on TV, and those 11 episodes were aired out of order and regularly preempted for sporting events and old movies. Fox didn't want this show to find an audience, yet it still managed to garner a small but loyal fan base who drove up enough DVD sales to get a film continuation in 2005.
No power in the verse can stop me.
Firefly's premature cancellation lives rent-free in the collective headspace of everyone who's ever watched it, including lead actor Nathan Fillion. I think he permanently lost a piece of his heart when this show ended.
What exactly are you supposed to be?
Space cowboy.
Okay, A, there are no cows in space. B, didn't you wear that like 5 years ago?
So?
So don't you think you should move on?
I like it.
Despite its brief lifespan, the series feels rich and fully realized. The core cast's chemistry is infectious, and the world building is ingenious. Sci-fi and Western elements are expertly woven together to craft a depiction of the near-distant future that's not too dissimilar from our current society. The core planets are beacons of technological advancement, but the outer rim is a frontier fraught with inequality. A high-tech laser is not a common possession, it's a display of extravagant wealth and status. These imbalances are exacerbated by a massive central government that fails to properly govern the bulk of its people. The Alliance is not an evil empire. They're merely a meddlesome bureaucracy that projects an inflexible vision of civilization onto a universe full of disparate planets and cultures.
That sounds like the Alliance. Unite all the planets under one rule so that everybody can be interfered with or ignored equally.
Mal's disdain for the Alliance stems back to the Unification War, a galaxy-wide conflict that resulted in a crushing defeat for the Independents. The show's creator wanted to explore characters who'd fought on the losing side of a rebellion after reading Michael Shara's Pulitzer Prize-winning novel, The Killer Angels.
May have been the losing side. Still not convinced it was the wrong one.
That piece of trivia often prompts some justified scrutiny. The book depicts the Battle of Gettysburg, the deadliest span of fighting during the American Civil War. At first glance, the fact that a man felt motivated to write about the losing side of a similar conflict nearly reduces Firefly to your average lost cause narrative, a Southern negationist myth about the quote-unquote heroic and noble nature of the Confederacy. The show manages to avoid this comparison by omitting the issue of slavery, which was the core reason why the American Civil War was fought in the first place. Mal and the other browncoats were fighting for their independence. Nothing more, nothing less. In fact, when he comes across a boastful slaver in the episode Shindig, Mal robs and assaults him.
Good drinker, that one.
Some of the characters can and should be described as conservative, but their personal ideologies are far more aligned with Ron Swanson's approach to libertarianism than the fascist and hateful drivel of modern-day politics.
The whole point of this country is if you want to eat garbage, balloon up to 600 pounds, and die of a heart attack at 43, you can. You are free to do so. To me, that's beautiful.
The show avoids another genre pitfall by creating an Old West where natives aren't regularly being displaced in the name of manifest destiny. Firefly focuses on the day-to-day struggle of existence, and the moral quandaries the crew has to face are far less cut and dry than the events from American history that inspired the show. The other critiques I have for Firefly are pedantic nitpicks. I don't think Simon and Kaylee have much romantic chemistry, but their budding relationship still has endearing moments. Episode 5 is a tad underbaked, but a mediocre installment of Firefly is still better than most shows' best efforts.
Cut her down!
The girl is a witch.
Yeah, but she's our witch. So cut her the hell down.
That's not to say that Firefly is an otherwise flawless show, but I struggle with articulating its faults because it was such a formative piece of media for me. I first watched it when I was 16, and it quickly became one of my favorite hyperfixations. It made me laugh, it made me cry, and it served as my formal introduction to existential philosophy, a discovery that forever changed how I approach life. The original pitch for the series was 9 people looking into the blackness of space and seeing 9 different things. For Captain Malcolm Reynolds, this never-ending void represents freedom. The opening theme song's lyrics do an excellent job of explaining his mentality. Take my love, take my land, take me where I cannot stand. I don't care. I'm still free. You can't take the sky from me. The sky embodies Mal's capacity to make meaningful choices in an otherwise indifferent universe. He was once a man of great faith, but after the Battle of Serenity Valley, he stopped believing in everything.
Once you've been in Serenity, you never leave. You just learn to live there.
I felt the exact same way when my favorite pizza place closed. And when my house flooded, but at least when that happened, I could drown my sorrows with unlimited breadsticks. Mal is defined by his disillusionment. He may have survived the war, but he never truly left Serenity Valley, hence why his spaceship bears the same name. God, government, and the ground are all meaningless signifiers to him, but Mal has not surrendered to the nothingness. He combats his own insignificance by creating something meaningful, his crew. This family of misfits is a cause worth fighting for. Life on the Rim is harsh and unforgiving, but Mal considers any day where they're still flying to be a good day.
That's not much.
It's enough.
Existentialism emphasizes an individual's free will and capacity to make meaningful choices. In the absence of a greater purpose, we have to be active agents in the process of shaping our own lives. Yielding this responsibility to another person or organization is to act in bad faith. The choices we're given may not always be ideal, but we still have to make them. Otherwise, we'd be inauthentic objects floating in space.
Well, here I am.
This is part of the reason why Reavers are so terrifying. The concept of vicious space cannibals is horrifying in its own right, but their existence is just another extension of the show's inherent philosophy. Characters theorize that Reavers were men who traveled to the edges of space, peered into the vast nothingness, and became nothing themselves.
I've been to the edge. Just look like more space.
Their true origins are explored in the film continuation, but I won't be spoiling that here. The senseless brutality of Reavers is often used to contrast the rigid order of society, and though they're only present in 2 episodes, the threat of them looms over the narrative like Damocles' dagger. It's worth noting that Reavers exist in Firefly's universe because the show's creator wanted to include a monster in his story, stating that in the stories of the Old West, the monster was the Apache.
Yikes!
This is yet another red flag, but Reavers as they appear on the show are devoid of any and all racial ties. To once again quote the creator, anyone who goes out into space and goes mad can become a monster. This is yet another example of why we as audience members need to be informed viewers. The entertainment we consume isn't created in a vacuum, it's inspired by various outside factors, and when one of those factors happens to be American history, there are storytelling pitfalls aplenty. Westerns can be a ton of fun, but the genre is plagued with racial stereotypes that can't and shouldn't be overlooked. Firefly also managed to create a pitfall that's entirely unique to its setting. The in-universe lore explains that the United States and China were the last 2 remaining superpowers on Earth. When space exploration began, the 2 countries merged to form a central government, resulting in a galaxy of blended cultures. Everyone in the cast is bilingual, fluent in both English and Mandarin, but there aren't any Chinese actors in the series. It's really weird, until you realize the second language is there primarily to sneak swear words past the censors.
Oh, gossip.
On paper, Firefly is a collection of weird concepts that shouldn't work, yet it's one of the most cohesive pieces of fiction I've ever experienced. It's regularly ranked at the top of lists titled TV shows that were canceled too soon, and though it has some flaws, the series offers a unique and refreshing perspective in a media landscape that tends to recycle the same ideas in perpetuity. That being said, I really hope it doesn't get revived again. So what do I mean by that? When I say I don't want more Firefly, the statement is 2 parts coping mechanism and 1 part truth. Almost all of my favorite shows have been prematurely canceled or kneecapped in some capacity. There's a reason I dedicated an entire month's worth of videos to this topic. I can count on one hand the number of shows I love that actually ended on their own terms. Complete narratives are a rarity these days, especially since studios don't value their writers or actors. But a reboot of Firefly would merely add to the deluge of unoriginal content we're currently experiencing. Also, I've skirted around this fact for most of the video, but Firefly's creator is Joss Whedon. If you're familiar with this channel, you know I'm not the guy's biggest fan.
Would
Would you like me to stop referring to the trash can as a trash can?
The man has created some of the most poignant TV shows ever conceived, but he's also written plot lines that can only be described as sexist and spiteful nonsense. Yeah, I'm really glad the episode where Nara gets gang raped by Reavers was never made. Furthermore, if the series continued, they'd have to do it without Alan Tudyk because Joss senselessly killed his character off in the film. Firefly just wouldn't be the same without Wash.
I'm a leaf on the wind. Watch how I soar.
But at the end of the day, I don't want more Firefly because I don't feel a sense of incompletion when I watch it. We got a brief glimpse into something special, and I cherish that privilege. I've learned to look at the show like a miniseries, not unlike Over the Garden Wall. A short-lived, fully realized idea that asks some really interesting questions and sticks with you for the rest of your life. It's satisfying to think that, despite every hardship, Serenity is still flying, even if we aren't privy to her voyage.
What was that?